Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher Racing Preview Show. Golden Slipper Day, Group 1 racing, 5 of them obviously up in Sin City. And our man who is up there, he's got it all covered. And he's very excited about having his moment in the sun. Nic Ashman, how are you, pal?
I'm very good, Jules. 5 Group 1s up here, spearheaded by the richest 2-year-old race in the world, the Golden Slipper. Arguably, or without argue, I would have thought the most influential race on the Australian calendar. The winner of this, particularly if it's a colt, could have a huge impact on the kind of horses that we're backing over the next decade or so. So all systems to Rosehill on Saturday.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's get to the track intel. Really important here. We obviously raced there last week. The rail was in the true, and we spoke about this on the review show that, as you suggested anyway, they were going to be sort of 4 off, 5 off the inside lanes. Now we go out 3 metres the entire circuit, Nico. So how do we think this track's going to play? Because everyone's going to be having somersaults in their head and getting themselves into contusions. How about you just give them the information so they don't have to do all the hard work?
Yeah, don't do your head in. Just listen to me for the next 30 seconds. I'll tell you what's going to happen on Saturday. Rails and run will be advantageous. And then in the straight, just a fraction away from the inside track. So not necessarily hard up against the rail. I'm not saying it's a no-go zone. It's not going to be like it was last week. But what I'm saying is you probably just want to be in that lanes 2 to 6. That's your sweet spot in the home straight. Now, all of this comes with one caveat, irrigation. We've got to pay attention. There's a little bit of rainfall due in Sydney on Friday. It's only about 3 mils. And there's maybe a mil or so on race day. Now, if that falls naturally, it should keep the track in absolute pristine condition. However, if they decide to chuck some more irrigation on it, we might end up on a soft track, and that could make that inside part of the track inferior. So bet with caution early, I say.
All right, so there you go. Very important information on the track for a big Golden Slipper day. So look out for those clouds because it might impact it. If it doesn't deliver, irrigation comes into play. And as Nick said, it might change the way he thinks this track is going to play on Saturday. Moonee Valley this week for the Reid Stakes on a Saturday, usually been on a Friday night, but they go to a Saturday. True position the entire circuit. Now, it's a good 4, and we expect it to be a good 4, but asterisk, caveat, up to 25 mils Thursday night. So we obviously film this Thursday morning. Bit of a storm coming through Melbourne Thursday evening. Now, if we get 10 mils, probably perfect. We're probably on the worst side of a good 4. And as the day goes on, it's going to be a dry day Saturday, no issue at all. But if we get the full 25 mils, cold day tomorrow, doesn't get an opportunity to really dry, maybe we're going to be in a soft 5, soft 6. So again, just keep your eyes open for that. I think the track will play even across the board, back to the true. I know it's had some moments, this Moonee Valley track. It has been, racing a lot on the Friday nights, but they've had a couple of weeks to hopefully get it right. True position the entire circuit. So I'm thinking that's about when it plays its fairest. So that's the setup. Again, watch the clouds Thursday night to see what happens. That's the track intel. Rosehill, Moonee Valley. Righto, Nico, it's the Group 1 sets, and we've got a bit to get through. We've got 6 races that we're going to actually cover here. So punters, sit yourself down because there's a bit to get through. We'll start with the Golden Slipper. It is Golden Slipper Day, as you said. It's the richest 2-year-old race on the planet. And you can see the market's very interesting, isn't it? Wodenton's sort of favourite. Tempted's there. There's some interesting horses all the way. The map that we've got, look, you can sort of go through this after I sort of have my thoughts on it. Skyhook probably goes forward. I would have thought North England has to roll forward. Nico, I think Devil Knight from that gate has to settle in the first 3 or 4. I think there's some wide pressure from horses like Balazane, Baywat, those kinds of horses. And then you got horses like Tempted and Wodenton who have drawn really well inside. They're probably thinking, are they going to be 3-back rails or can they try and work to rail leaders back? I don't think they can. Wodenton, does it want it to be the outside of Tempted or does it actually take the back of Tempted? There's some interesting things from a map point of view. What can you give the punters there from that, from your lens?
Let's start from the top. So I went through and looked at the average gate speed. That's 200-metre split times to the 600-metre mark for these horses. Mahuna, or is it Mahuna? Yeah, Mahuna's got the fastest, 11:47 average split to the 600, courtesy of that Riesling Stakes second to Tempted. That was a very fast-run race. I don't think she'll lead, but what it does mean is we know that she can travel at a high speed and still be within a comfort zone. That's a big asset to have. Then you've got Bella Zane, averaging 11.52 sectional through that first section. She's the one that's going to come across from an outside gate and she's going to try and lead. I think the stablemate Far-Sighted will sit on her outside, and I think the third of the Waterhouse and Bott runners, North England, will probably try and grab leaders back. All of them have got good gate speed, but they won't be sitting three abreast. You can be assured of that. One of them will take the drop, and I reckon it'll be North England. So then you look at who's in behind them. I think Skyhook, Jules, yes, he was on speed last Saturday leading, but it was a very slowly run Pago. Yep. I think just from barrier 8, he'll look to tuck in. He might just try and keep Devil Knight out free wide. If they go pretty quick early, Devil Knight's got a little bit more natural toe than him. If he kicks up underneath him, he might just use up or take himself outside his comfort zone. So when he's been on speed previously, it's been in slowly run races. I can see him settling sort of 4th, 5th or 6th. Mahuna's there. I think Tempted will be a little bit closer this time from a softer draw. Even if she just goes the raw speed she did when she won the Riesling, she'll be a lot closer. I think Woderton, to add to your point, I think he'll be behind Tempted. They're going to put the winkers on. They're going to ride him cold, and they're going to try and get that explosive finish out of him that we saw on debut, which we haven't seen since, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He's continually sort of regressed since that, so he's going to have to go to that level again, if not beyond. You want to have a bet in the race. You look at the market now. Is there any holes or advantages you see right now that you want to have a play?
Look, right now it's starting to really sort of marry up. I thought Mahuna was a play at $15 on Tuesday night. I just think she was crazy. We tempted around that $5, $6 mark. There wasn't much between him in the Riesling. If anything, coming from Ranvet to Rosehill is going to suit the filly that's going to be in front with more natural gate speed, and that's Mahuna. So I think she's probably just a small each-way play at double figures. I think Tempted deserves to be favourite. We'll touch on Woderton's price a bit later in the show. For mine, Tempted's got the best figure, but she's just got that little caveat that she's starting to get deep into her preparation. Was it her grand final last time out? Look, if you want to look for some big blowouts in the race, I'm against Woderton, but I won't be losing too much on the race if he wins, if that makes any sense. I'll be having a chop out on him. The two blowouts for your trifectas, and there's a ton of horses you can make a case for, Rivellino, etc. I think the two blowouts are North England, just because he was back towards the inside on a day when you wanted to be off rail last time out, and he was first up from a spell. Most of them were deeper into their preparations. He looks the big improver, and he's got an 8-time winning trainer in his corner in the form of Gay Waterhouse. She knows how to win this race. The other one, though, is Tycoon Star. Every winner that you look at comes from the Blue Diamond up to the Golden Slipper usually has a flat run in between. His was the Todman. I'm not saying he's the same ability as Sepoy, but Sepoy did the same thing. He won a Blue Diamond. He ran second in the Todman, and he came out and won a Golden Slipper. Now, as I said, he's not in the same quality as him, but I reckon the Hayes boys would be saying, righto, we can't get him to hold that peak for 4 weeks, so we'll probably back off him. Yep. It was 3 wide, no cover for parts in the Todman. I reckon he could be the big improver. Mark Zahra in the saddle, barrier 5, and he's around that $20 mark. Here's a stat for you, Jules.
Yes.
Last 30 years, 43% of winners over the last 30 years have jumped from either barrier 1 or 3.
Wow.
This year, that's Rivellino in 3 and Tempted in barrier 1. So fun fact there for you, my man.
There you go. Well, might have been factored into my price because I've marked like you. I think I've got Tempted clear-cut favourite, to be honest, and they've got a gap sort of to the others. So it'd be interesting to see what the market ends up doing, especially with Woderton, who seems to be sort of anchored with that SP at the moment. But other than that, his numbers don't back it up. That's the slipper. Let's get to the George Ryder. Oh, again, market behind me here, Nico, and it's an interesting race. You've got Fangirl favourite, you've got good support for Royal Patronage, and then you've got sort of Chow Wolf as well, who's probably just about ready to peak, you would think, and then you've sort of got a gap to the rest. I think from my perspective, when I'm analysing this race, if you think it's going to be a fast run race, then I think you have to start leaning in towards Chow Wolf. And if you think it's going to be a slowly run race, I think you have to lean towards the mare Fangirl, who we know has got an explosive turn of foot. So I think that's for the punter to work out. Do you have a theory on how fast you think this race is going to be run? Because I'm assuming you think Royal Patronage probably finds the front.
100%. I think he gets his own way in front as well. I think Cheerwolf probably settles in the first 4, and Fangirl has no option but to go back to the tail. Here's the big thing. How much water does the track get? If the inside part of the track stays up and firm, and it's the place to be in those first 4 or 5 lanes, I think Royal Patronage and Cheerwolf are the 2 horses that you want to back. Level stake them if you must. You won't get a huge amount out of the race, but I'd be keen to take Fangirl on. Now, Royal Patronage was a surprise winner first up, but if you actually go back and look at his form, he probably shouldn't have been $21 or $20 when he ran first up in the Canterbury Stakes. He'll get his own way in front again. Cheer Wolf will be just behind him. And I think those two are the two horses to beat. But if the rain comes or if it gets over irrigated the track, and you'll be able to get a look through the first few races, it's going to bring Fangirl right into it, because you can bet your ball and dollar if that track's got a bit of stickiness about it and they're not winning on the inside, there's not going to be as much pressure to get to the front from Royal Patronage. He'll go slower. The outer lanes will be in play, and that is just screaming Fangirl. So I think you've got to be a bit nimble about in this race. I'm happy to play early. We'll get to that in a few minutes' time, but I'll be taking on Fangirl early doors.
Okay, good shout there from Nico Ashman for the George Ryder Stakes. Let's get to the Ranvet Stakes, and we've got the short price favourite here in Via Sistina for obvious reasons. Just want to touch on the two imports that come over here sort of first go. Almabia, who's a listed winner over 2,000 metres in the UK, doesn't have a high time form. We sort of see some of these horses that come over, the Dubai Honours, the Adibs, they're nowhere near the sort of time form rating that those horses had. The other one's obviously Full Count Felicia, who I think goes forward. Group 1 winner, but that's obviously in the States, Nico. So, I mean, that's not going to hold up probably too much here compared to the European sort of form lines. She's short, but she deserves to be short, yeah?
100%. I marked her $1.33.
Yeah.
Traditionally, this mare goes flat second up. I said on our previous show a couple of weeks ago, I think that win in the Chipping Norton was her flat run for the preparation. If they can't beat her there, they're not going to beat her. They had, I know, with all due respect to Lindemann, who is on the 7-day backup, to be fair, and that'll make him nice and hardened, and maybe he can go to front and make this a stern test. But the faster they go in front, the better it is for Via Sistina. Yeah. So she's had that hard run now, second up from a spell. I don't think she'll go flat off it. Traditionally, with the hard runs, she tends to come out of them pretty well. I think she wins. $1.33. I think she's a good multi-anchor for those playing that way.
All right, so that's the Ranvet Stakes, obviously dominated by the mare Via Sistina. Let's get to the Galaxy here, 1,100 metres. I found this a really interesting race, Nico, because you've sort of got your short price favourite, as you can see from the market behind me, Private Harry, going to be first up into this race, and he's done nothing wrong, and he's won all his starts. Outside of that, your mare's sort of given a chance, commemorative, Growing Empire with J-Mac. I think that could be significant. Eagle Nest on the quick backup, which you sort of said was a race that we could sort of identify going forward. Whether it's a race as hot as the Galaxy, I'm not sure. But what were your thoughts on this race? Because just quickly, when I sort of did my pricing, and obviously I'm not right hard into the Sydney profiling as you are, I couldn't get Private Harry anywhere near the current quote. Now, I know there's plenty of upside in this horse, but I marked him a little bit bigger. What are you doing with this race?
Yeah, he's a tricky one to price, isn't he? Because you're also his career best performance was obviously that Magic Million Sunline Plate where he beat Lady of Camelot, and he beat her comfortably on that soft 6 track. But the standards and the ratings that you get out of Sunshine Coast are very hard to measure up. And I wrote a piece for a client of mine during the week looking to buy a horse as a stallion, and that was through the Black Opal. And I said, look, it's very difficult when you rate these non-typical black type tracks, because it's very hard. The calibre of horse that goes to these tracks on those days is vastly different to what normally races there. So it's very hard to get a line. So
just with that, that's a really good point, and I think it's important for the punters to understand that when you're working off sort of standard times on these kinds of tracks, so your Canberras, even your Gold Coast on those Magic Millions, Sunshine Coast, as you mentioned, we have it sometimes when you have the standalone days at Bendigo or at Mornington or at Ballarat. The better class horses go there, and it just bust up the standards. They're all going 2.5, 3 seconds inside standard, but it's just because it's all relative to what's actually been running there earlier, which have been the 64s and the 70s at best. So punters got to understand that they could bust up the clock theoretically, but that's just because lower class horses have been running on those tracks. So I think that's something you touched on it. I just wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, it's key to understanding these races. So then getting back to the price on Private Harry, he could be a $3 or $3.50 pop here, Jules. But this is the race we find out where he sits. So it's buyer beware. But my girl commemorative, what I do know is this race is going to be run at a fast tempo. So getting back to Eagle Nest, she led first up on a soft tempo 7 days ago. She's not going to get that soft tempo here. That's not to say that she can't run top 4 or 5, but I think this is a very different calibre of race and a different shape of race. So I don't really want to be with her. Because of the fast tempo, Jetabil, who was very good first up at 1,000 metres, I think she's up against it. She's got a wide gate, 1,100 metres Rosehill, not a good play to be. and she's probably a query at a real strong 1,100 metres. I think she's more effective at a fast run 1,000 metres. I think Commemorative gets everything in her favour. The only thing she's going to have is traffic issues in the home straight. She's not going to go around them. She's going to have to go through them. She's a big girl, so if she can find half a gap, she can probably put herself through it. I can't bet against her in the race, but I can just sort of see some tragedy halfway up the running as well. So she's my on-top selection in the race. But as I said, I'm treading with caution. Just on IME, I think she's at a silly price at $12 or $13. Now, she could be gone this prep. She went first up into a fast run 1,100 metre race. She's more of a 1,000 metre horse. Then her rating second up in the Challenge Stakes wasn't as good as what we expect from her over that trip. That's because she went flat first up. One of two things happens here. She either bounces out of that flat run second up and goes, right, I'm back to where I am, and she can run a figure here, or she's gone for the preparation. If you're betting in the race, I reckon you just got to have a peanut or two on her because she's got the talent to win this and you're getting double figures.
Really interesting thoughts there from Nick Ashman about the Galaxy, and always it does come down to these big handicaps over 1,100 metres, whether it be the Oakley Plate or the Galaxy, those kinds of races. You need luck in running. Fifth of the Group 1s that we get to is the Rosehill Guineas over 2,000 metres for the 3-year-olds. And broadsiding dominates here from a market perspective. Obviously, Swift Falcon, Aliana are involved as well. And then you push out a little bit to, Gold Rush Guru, who was pretty good in the Australian Guineas. What are your thoughts here? Are you with the fave, or is there just enough chinks in the armour to suggest he might be vulnerable?
I hate this race.
Yep.
I tell you why I hate it, because the Ranvet Guineas rated terribly.
Yeah.
But too many good horses were in that race for me to pen it. I look at it and go, I'm seeing the numbers. They're not good. But then I know what those horses are all capable of. If it was just broadsiding and it went no good, I'd be like, right, I'm taking him on.
Yep.
But you had Swift Falcon in the race. You had Aliana in the race. What are the chances that all three of them ran really badly?
Yeah.
I just think maybe it was something to do with the shape of the race, something to do with that day that we're not picking up in the data.
Yep.
There's just too many horses ran poor time in that race. So I don't want to bin it all together. That said, broadsiding hasn't developed much. Go and have a look at him in the mounting yard. He's not overly big. I'm going to take him on at the even money. I have to.
Yep.
Aliana, I thought Jason Collett just didn't get going soon enough in the Ranvet Guineas. Easy to say in hindsight. He's a great jockey. I think you'll see her be a bit more positive here. Big question coming back to you is, does she back up out of this and have a crack at Treasure of the Moment? Looks like a real Waller plan here. Run in the Guineas 7 days earlier, back up. That's his best chance to take on that Victorian filly who's clearly got the ratings edge on her. And if she doesn't perform well enough, she goes 3 weeks between runs into the Queen of Turf Stakes, almost certainly, surely. I think Plymouth is over the odds. I think he got held up behind the leaders in the Australian Guineas. He's a bit of a one-pace type. He needs to keep rolling. Yep. He didn't get that. $15 can play him each way with Mike Zora in the saddle. And Gold Rush Guru, for mine, he's just a bomb-proof horse. He's going to go forward. Jamie in the saddle. He'll be in the first 4 or 5. He's going to run the trip out properly, whereas I think there's a query on a horse like Swift Falcon. I don't know if he's a 2,000-metre horse yet. Gold Rush Guru is. He's going to put himself on speed. The faster they go, the better. She can come out and apply the blowtorch from the 600-metre mark, make broadsiding work. And if he has 2 gutbusters in a row, it might be hard for him to bounce back out of that.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's the Rosehill Guineas. So there's the 5 Group 1s, obviously, in Rosehill. Nick's gone through them in fantastic detail. The 6th is obviously the 1,200-metre weight for age race at Moonee Valley. It is the William Reid Stakes. It's a small field, and it's an interesting field because the market behind me, understandably, Jimmy Star is the favourite after his barnstorming win in the Oakley Plate, sort of ahead of just She's Bulletproof. And there's a couple other horses around that mark as well, as you can see. It's an interesting race because Jimmy Star's drawn 2 here, Nico, and around Moonee Valley, he got to the outside at Caulfield. It was a really good ride by Ethan Brown to sort of follow Craig Williams with She's Bulletproof. He might not be afforded that opportunity. He's probably going to have to ride for luck around the valley. I think the leader probably is Arabian Summer, and Reserve Bank's obviously got the other 3-year-old in the race. Hasn't got the early toe of, say, Arabian Summer, but I still think could probably tag it, and those 2 sort of clear off. And then I think there's sort of a glut of them. They're going to be sort of midfield, worse than midfield, probably possibly Jimmy Star. So when you're taking 280, 290, you want a lot of things in your favour. And one of these is going to be the map for Jimmy Star and where actually Ethan Brown can get in the run. So I've got a bit of more juice in the price of Jimmy Star. Do I want to back anything else in the race? So I really like the Benedetto run Even though it had no luck up the Flemington Straight in the Newmarket, she wasn't suited there with that big weight. I think she gets an opportunity here. She'll probably have the map advantage over Jimmy Star, but in saying that, she's probably found her price point as well around that $5.50, $6. Haven't got her marked any shorter than that. I found the race really messy, Nico. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it's hard because you look at Jimmy Star or you look at some of these other horses and you think, are they a Group 1 weight for age horse? The reality is none of these have won a Group 1 weight for age race. So I don't think you have to be a Group 1 weight for age horse to win it. Someone's got to win it. So I'm with you. I thought Benedetta was unlucky in the Newmarket. I thought her first up run off a long break was a pass mark, and she's the one. I was happy to snip around that sort of $7, $6.50 mark. I think the market will gravitate a little bit towards her. Now, what's going to bring her in even more is if that rain comes and the inside part of the track is off. Now, she's not necessarily a wet tracker. She's probably better on top of the ground. But what she wants more than anything is for the inside rail to be off because of a couple of reasons. One is she's a horse that likes to sort of sprint down the outside typically. And also Jimmy Star, the favourite, has drawn barrier 2. So if she can sort of have him back, behind her to her inside, that's a big advantage for Benedetta. So I'd maybe just sit and wait, check to see that the inside part of the track is off. And if it is, just have something each way in Benedetta.
Yeah, good shout. And it's going to be interesting too from a speed perspective. So if they go really fast here, which I'm not expecting, by the way, if Arabian Summer really takes off, then it gives the opportunity, the field breaks up a little bit, and then Ethan Brown on Jimmy Star can actually pick his way through the field a little bit, and it's a lot easier. If they go really slow, he's probably at best 3-back rail, and they're all cluttered. There's no space. He ain't jumping over the top of them, and then it becomes really difficult for Jimmy Star. So I think that will also come into play as well, that the tempo of this race is also going to dictate probably the best chances in particular for Jimmy Star, because if they go really slow, he needs horses to somehow fall off the cliff and somehow find a miracle gap because, as we said, he's not going to be able to jump and he's not going to be able to loop them. He's a very good racehorse. He hasn't got that much on them to be able to loop them.
And I think, Jules, as well, if that rain comes and the inside part of the track's off, similar to Rosehill, they're not going to go hard in front or as hard as they would have done if it was dry. So it's another reason why it's going to play against Jimmy. So just sit and wait for a bit of rain and have a bet then.
Good shout. That's the Group 1 set for this week, punters. Righto, Nico, let's get to your New South Wales set. What do you got for us? I think you got 4 selections, so fire away.
Yeah, look, we start off with probably the most interesting runner, one of the more interesting runners of the day. Race 3, number 2, Cleveland. Now, he's a horse that has had a bit of time in Australia, obviously owned by Lloyd Williams. He resumes here off a pretty long break. I think it's the best part of 6 months, 24 weeks in total. Now, if you look at his first up form, he's had 6 starts and hasn't even managed a placing. But since he's been in Australia, he's had 4 first up runs. Only 2 of them have been on dry decks, and one of them was pretty good. It was in the Tancred on this day 2 years ago, one of these days at Rosehill 2 years ago. So I think he's had some excuses since then. I thought his trial recently was okay. Hugh Bowman in the saddle. He's been gelded since we last saw him. I think Alessance is definitely the horse to beat in the race, and he's highly progressive and probably should be winning. But just at around that $21 mark, Cleveland, I've got to have something just very small each way because I can see him. He's got the ability to certainly knock all of these off. Then we go forward to race 5. I'm a little embarrassed putting a $1.40 pop in, but I've marked her $1.33. So if you understand market percentages, she's still a bit of an over. And I think you can just put it into your anchor multis via Sistina. And then I've got a 2-bet play in race 7, Shearwolf and Royal Patronage. I'm hoping that the rain, not too much rain falls in Sydney over the next 24, 48 hours, and I'm hoping that there's not too much irrigation in that time as well. If the track is reasonably firm on race day, or at least a good 4, no worse than, then I think Shearwolf and Royal Patronage, one of those 2 will be winning the George Ryder Stakes. Just level stake them both at $5 and $4.40. You should get a result.
Beautiful. Thanks, Nico. That's the New South Wales set. Let's get to my Victorian set, obviously, for Moonee Valley. We're going to start off in race 3. It's the 13 top calibre. Look, we were against this horse first up. It was sort of off only 90 days. It had 3 runs, big win at Bairnsdale, then went to Adelaide for 2 wins. The first one was okay, rated only fair, and then the second one in Adelaide went through the roof. Williams took over. It was first up. I was happy to be against it. Well, I was wrong from a market perspective because the market absolutely truckloaded it, especially at the death. So that gave me confidence that obviously the numbers were right. Look, it didn't have much luck either. I know people can look at it and go, oh, he had every chance. I just saw Craig got on the back, unluckily, of a horse that was going nowhere, had to go back to the inside, got a little bit tight for room, looks a really big horse, needs some space. Then when found that space, got to the outside, really made some good ground, obviously behind Pivot City, which obviously it's going to run against on Saturday as well. I had that race going really well. Wide draw, no disadvantage, I think, with this being a big horse. I want to be with Top Caliber in race 3. We go to race 4, a horse each way called Helsing, the 6. Now, this is a horse that I'm just banking on the fact that it's third up now. It's been an international, had a prep, didn't really work out, had one run. This is its second prep in Australia. I thought the run last start was good. It was out the back, bowl around sort of stuff, not there to win. And it was behind a horse called Enzudo, who I've got a massive opinion of, who's just continually winning and rating continually high. So I'm trusting that form line. I want to be with Helsing each way, third up. I think it's ready to peak. Race 7, I want a different form line from these other ones that are just running around at the moment behind Treasure of the Moment. Treasure of the Moment's the star, but I think something else has always got to run 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. So I think it's winner only out of these Treasure of the Moment races. I want to be with Gala Queen each way, usually playing 1 by 4, maybe even 1 by 5 with that sort of $1.70, $1.75 to place Gala Queen. Big numbers. So huge at Pakenham, then got beaten in a big $300,000 race at Pakenham behind some, I think, group horses. And then went to Adelaide, and again, big margin to 3rd, huge rating race. Just want to be with a different four line. I think Gala Queen will run really well for us. Race 8, I'm being with the 3-year-old. Again, different form lines to these older mares who I think are just sort of taking in turns. I want to be with another profit down the bottom, sort of that $2.25 each way play. I'm happy to be with that with 54 kilos. And then we get to the last, which is not usually race 9 or race 10. It's actually race 11. We've got 11 at Moonee Valley, if you don't mind. I'm with the 6, extra 2. I think third up here, it's a Moonee Valley horse. Look, it's drawn gate 1, so bit of buyer beware there. But if we can get the luck at the right time, I think it's the best horse in the race. I've got a big opinion of My Temptation, absolutely. But I think extra 2 has got some big numbers, especially around the valley. I want to be with it. I reckon it's about ready to peak. So there's a bit in that, punters, but that's my set for this week, Moonee Valley. All right, snap or don't snap, and it's just me here at Moonee Valley, so I'll go through it really quickly here, Nico. So race 7, 2 Darn Lizzie. It's around that $3, $3.10 mark, and I can understand it. The market sort of is going to want to be with it probably, but I just can't be. Yes, it's got the Treasure of the Moment form lines, and we love her, but I think it's winner only. So I'm taking on 2 Darn Lizzie. I think at some stage you're going to get a better price than that $3, $3.10. I've marked her much bigger. In race 8, the mares race, Molly Bloom. I thought she was only fair last start. Just don't know where she gets to from a map perspective. Again, she's around that $5. I think you're going to get a better price than that. If you want to be with Molly Bloom third up, absolutely. But I think you'll get better than the $5 on offer currently. And in the last, race 11, there's a horse called Hedged. I just can't catch this horse. Does have one good run sort of in its prep. I think the market's just about ready to spit it out as well. So Hedge for me around that $5. I think we don't have to snap that as well. So 3 don't snap. So I think you hold off. You're going to get better prices about those 3 horses. That's the snap or don't snap this week. All right, let's get to pin the tail, Nico. So we'll just work our way back from last week. I've now hit the front. It's 3-2 after Amelia's Jewel and just worked out the way with that pricing. The SP Amelia's Jewel for PointsBet was $8, so we weren't far away. You were $7, I was $7.50. So the market sort of did what we predicted. I mean, early doors, sort of that Wednesday, she was sort of $4.40, so she eventually just continued to drift. And obviously the 3-year-old filly lady, Shenandoah, who, got out to a reasonable price as well in that race. Anyway, so it's 3-2. Let's go to probably the most talked about horse probably for the last 2 months in regards to the Golden Slipper. It is Woderton. Again, he's sort of sitting around that $4.60, $4.80 mark right now. I have marked him $7.50, Nico. So, look, I just think we're seeing this horse. He was really good first up. I probably don't have the numbers that everyone else had first up, but yeah, it was very good and clearly the best 2-year-old figure, no doubt. Just didn't have it going as high as others. And I think that's just what's anchored his SP all the way throughout the last couple of runs. I think at some stage the market's got to say, you know what, this horse is just not doing the numbers anymore, and we just got to spit him out and find something else. And especially with Tempted, I think running a pretty good number and just some other different form lines, I think I'm happy to be $7.50. The big talking horse, Woderton. What price are you, my friend?
$6.50 for me. So now it's a moral to start $7 when we have a push. But look, it's hard, isn't it? We spoke about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. His last 400 metres sprint on debut was electric. It was unreal. It's up there with what you see from proper horses. So there's definitely the ability to sprint hard. But we've now seen him twice at the races since then. So everyone bonused him heavily off his debut, thinking this is a horse that can get to this number with that kind of turn of foot in a faster run race. But now he's had a couple of opportunities to prove himself and he hasn't quite measured up, albeit maybe with an excuse 2 starts ago. Last time out, there was enough tempo there for him to run a better figure, I think, than what he did, and he just didn't do it. So I'm sort of with you. I think he's got to get out the gate. I can't see how he starts favourite. But I just also factored in Chris Waller Grand Final, James McDonald, world's best jockey. I don't think the market's going to let him get too big, so I settled on $6.50.
And that's a very good point, actually, as well. And also he's got those SPs that are just going to anchor that as well down into his profile as well.
Yeah, so the other thing is the futures money on him with some bookies. Now, I know it's not the be-all and end-all, but there's a lot of bookies reporting that, you know, he's already a pretty big hold, so they probably can't afford to give too much of a price on him.
Really good point. And it's a point that actually is lost sometimes on other punters, that they don't actually work how the ecosystem does work in terms of that. So if that is the case, and I don't know if it is, that it is a big hold for the futures for this horse, there is no doubt some of these bigger corps are going to play some action into Betfair, the exchange, just to try and get that price in to keep it as tight as they possibly can without it drifting out. They don't want this horse drifting out, especially by 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, because the punters will still be piling into it probably because they've heard of that horse and they think it'll turn it around. Waller Grand Final, J-Mac, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to get plenty of maybe uneducated money at some stage, which is going to put their liabilities up. So, yeah, they'll try and do some work, obviously, through the exchange, I think, to not allow that to happen. So that is fascinating in itself. That was Pin the Tail this week. All right, punters, favourite segment of the week. It is Daisy's declaration, and he's doing that thing again, punters, where he's got the ball and he has the stick and he swings it and it goes in the hole and he goes, woohoo. All right, Daisy, where are you? What do you got for us?
All right, here we go. Daisy's declaration for this week is incoming, but first we do have to have a little look back. Extractor, no thank you. In the bin, not for me anymore. Finds trouble. Just one of those horses, I think, that just manages to run into the back of everything, get posted, no thanks. Alencia, well, same thing. 4th when you back it each way. 2nd if you back it straight up. Always frustrating. What we do need to give credit to is our boy Julian Valance. He stepped into my space last week at the AFL. He declared one in the footy, the overs in the Hawthorn game, and that's saluted, so well done to him. This week, the declaration, Daisy declares we go to the Valley, the William Reid, race 9. We go to She's Bulletproof. Now, the Valley at times can be tough to find a winner, and you need track form, you need distance form. A lot of these horses have to be specialists at both of those. So 2 goes at the track and distance for a win and a placing. That's good enough for me. $5. Yes, please, do it responsibly, and when it wins, we will be saying pay the people. Daisy's declaration is race 9, She's Bulletproof.
All right, beautiful, Daisy. Hope you don't get caught in that rain. There seems to be a little bit of precipitation there, but thank you very much. Good for the shout-out. Make sure you give you a sling, and good luck with She's Bulletproof. All right, let's get to the plays of the day. We're nearly done, my friend. I'll kick us off. I'm with race 7, number 3, Gala Queen. I just want to be with the different form line. Its performances I've got continually rating high and continually increasing every time. It's sort of each way for me, but I'll probably have a 1x4, 1x5 sort of play on this horse. Gala Queen, race 7, number 3, each way at the Valley. You've got a bit of a multi, my friend.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a dirty multi, and I'm ashamed of it. But, hey, race 5 in Sydney, obviously via Sistine. No matter how things pan out, I can't have her getting beaten, as I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. So I'm going to take her to win in the first leg, and then in the second leg, I just think the Waterhouse and Bott Stable will see their opportunity to beat Fangirl with Royal Patronage by running along at a good, at least an even tempo, if not genuine to fast. And I think that then brings Cheerwolf right into the race. I think he can win. But I think that $1.90 for him to run a place as a second leg of a double with Via the first leg. You're getting 266 on the double. That's a nice play of the day for me.
Beautiful, thank you. So that's the plays of the day for us at Moonee Valley and Rosehill. Thanks, Nico. That was sensational. You have a great Golden Slipper day. There is some plenty of good horse flesh around there, and we will dissect it all on Monday.
I can't wait, mate. I'll talk to you soon, eh?
Peace out.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.